Okay, so something pretty interesting is going on right now, on my whole, chronic illness journey. So, a couple weeks ago, I spoke to a nurse, that was assigned to me through my insurance company, and, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, you know, they're just there to deal with, like, small stuff, like colds and things like that, no big deal. But she wanted to talk about more in-depth stuff. So we started talking about like all of my symptoms and everything I've been going through my whole life. And it kind of came down to, well, first she asked me what medications I was on and then what I was allergic to. And when it got to what I was allergic to, I'm not really actually allergic to medications. It's that I have really severe weird reactions to them. So they're usually, when you get a medication, it says like talk to your doctor if you have these super weird reactions like migraines or freaky stuff or bleeding or things like that. And so there were things like Topamax is a migraine medication that I was put on because I have chronic migraines, and I was put on that, and it basically paralyzed me on my right side. Like, the whole right side of my body went numb. So I was like, okay, there's a weird reaction. I never want to be exposed to that again. So I just tell everyone I'm allergic to it. Then magnesium. I took milk of magnesia about 3 years ago in preparation for a colonoscopy, and ended up, my heart rate dropped to like 20. I was super sick. I was having like stroke symptoms and things like that. And it took about a week for my body to kind of feel more normal again. And then it took 2 years for my heart rate to come back to normal, and it only came up to 60 when I got pregnant with my son. Other than that, it was always around 45 after that. And I couldn't get anyone to listen to me because they were like, oh, you have the heart rate of an athlete. You're fine. You're going to live forever. And I'm like, no, because I'm not an athlete. Like, I'm really sick. So that's not it. So, once I started telling her about the medication reactions, she started getting super interested and started asking me really pointed questions, like if I had hyperflexibility or hypermobility, things like that, and the migraines. And then I told her that when I was younger, my hips used to dislocate all the time now, and I could bend my thumb back to my wrist frontwards and backwards, and you know, my elbows and my shoulders always pop. I've dislocated my shoulder in my sleep before. So it just kind of, you know, I was telling her about that kind of stuff. And she asked me if I'd ever been tested for Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And what was funny about that is about 2 weeks before she called me, I was actually, you know, you just kind of Google your symptoms every once in a while or whatever. So you have to put in whatever combination of symptoms, and then something will pop up, and you'll look at that and see if maybe other stuff goes with it. So I Googled some symptoms, and EDS came up, but the more I read into it, the more it made sense. And it really started to like fit with everything that was going on. So I got more and more interested, and I started doing more research, and then I kind of let it go because I felt like no one was ever going to believe me or test me for anything. So she asked me if I'd ever been tested for it, and I said no, but I had just gotten interested in reading about it. And then that's when she was like, well, honestly, if I could cut your picture out and put it into the textbook, it would be perfect. She was like, you are a textbook case for EDS. So, even weird things that I didn't know were symptoms, like I have, when I drink alcohol, which I very rarely, if ever, do, I get severe pain in my legs the next day. And I always thought, oh, you know, I'm just getting dehydrated, and I have rheumatoid arthritis, so when my joints get dehydrated, that's why it hurts. Well, other people started asking in a forum about it, and I realized that it was actually related to EDS. And then I have little like bubbles on my feet, and I thought they were little, like, it looked like little air pockets or something, and I thought that was pretty normal. They're really common, but it's also a symptom of EDS. So even things I didn't know about, you know, turned out to be symptoms, and that was just mind-blowing for me. So I am going to see an EDS specialist in Phoenix in June, which, you know, is going to take a while, and especially when you're like on the edge of your seat, like maybe I'll have a diagnosis finally for whatever's wrong with me, and that doctor doesn't have any openings for months. So, you know, I'm excited because I might actually have an answer. I'm also a little bit nervous because what if that's not it? But I'm hoping he can at least lead me in the direction of where I need to be. So far, I've been diagnosed with so many things. But at the my latest diagnosis was, arthritis, spondyloarthritis. So that's genetic and hereditary and all that stuff. So, I'm not really buying that too much, but I get it a little bit because my pain really started in my lower back. And, so they don't know what that's about. And that's what spondyloarthritis kind of starts in the lower back. So that's where my rheumatologist is leaning, at least. But I really wanted to talk to somebody who was very well versed in EDS, because he could be like, no, for sure, this is it. Or for sure, it's not it. So I'm just really excited. I just hate that I have to wait. It's going to be 2.5 months. Yeah, it's driving me nuts. So there's that. And since I joined an EDS forum on Facebook, oh my God, like everything just makes so much sense. They're all talking about all this stuff, and it's exactly the same thing. My whole life, it's been just like that. All of their symptoms and the weirdness, and, you know, the fact that they fell down a lot when they were kids, and they were the ones that got stitches and their family members didn't. And it's just like, yeah, it's me to a T. So I'm really hoping that's it. The good news is that I don't have the type of EDS that, you know, is more dangerous. Mine's just annoying. So there's that, but at least I would have an answer for what's going on, and it would help me while I'm working on my disability, because I mean, when you don't have a diagnosis, but all of these things are wrong with you and you're in so much pain and you're so young, the disability doesn't really want to deal with you or even entertain the idea that you could be disabled when you're under 30. Even really under 60, they're just not really into it. So you gotta have a definitive reason to really need it. So I use mobility aids, and, you know, I use wheelchairs and crutches and things like that. Most of it is because of pain in my back and legs, but I also do have a lot of weakness. I'm extraordinarily weak. Like I can't move my hands very well, and my hands get really tired from writing or using my phone too much. So, yeah, so I do use wheelchairs and things when I get the chance. It's hard since I just had the baby. I can't really use the wheelchair if I have the baby with me, because I can't push a stroller and myself in a wheelchair at the same time. It's just not going to happen. So I have to force myself to walk, and it's excruciating and horrible. So when I'm alone, I prefer to use a wheelchair or some sort of scooter or something. I really wish I had a scooter. That would be really awesome. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I had my first SOD attack since giving birth. So I made it 15 weeks past being pregnant, which is actually really rare. A lot of women get their first attack 6 to 8 weeks after giving birth. So I almost doubled that, which is amazing. So, yeah, it was horrible. It was really scary and messed up. I didn't have a good night at all. I came home at 6 and started having the attack, and then it didn't stop till 8. And then, after all my medications kicked in and everything, I ended up just going to bed and just being generally fatigued for about 3 days after that. So it takes a lot out of you. Like, SOD is so painful and horrible, and it's just exhausting. But I feel like with all the other symptoms and stuff that go with EDS and digestive issues and birth defects and things like that, I have all of that. And so I think that kind of went hand in hand with the SOD, and saying like, okay, well, maybe the birth defects in my bile ducts cause the SOD, and then that's related to the EDS. So I don't know. We'll find out. I feel like this doctor is really going to be the one to like bust open this puzzle and find out what's going on. But, you know, there's no cure. There's no real treatment either. You just kind of treat the symptoms as best you can. You do physical therapy, which my pain management doctor already wants to start me on once I kind of get my inflammation under control, because my inflammation is like off the charts bad. So he said once we get that down, I gotta do a lot of ice and heat and blah blah blah, and they're put me on prednisone, even though it's not good for people with EDS. It's only a 2-week trial, and so I'm not too freaked out about it. But yeah, so it's been really interesting. I just hate not knowing what's going on. Like when you're this close to knowing an answer and then it gets like ripped out from underneath you. And that's what I'm really worried about, is that I'm going to get really excited and then it's going to fall apart. So we'll see. I don't know. So that's about it. That's my only SOD update, is that I just had an attack and my Gatorade and nothing worked to stop it, which really sucked. But yeah, so there's an update for now, and then, you know, I'll have more once I get closer to June and figure out what we're dealing with. So if you have any questions or anything about EDS or SOD or any of my other chronic illnesses, you can always comment on my stuff and I'll be there 24/7. All right, bye.